My name is Camille Rowan. And the night I came home from a work trip to find strangers filming in my condo was the night I stopped being the quiet one. I pushed open the door, expecting silence, and found ring lights, tripods, and my brother Ryan shouting into a camera about his penthouse in downtown Austin. My mom, Janet, stood beside him like she owned the place, smiling for the chat as if my deed meant nothing. When I said, "What are you doing in my condo?" she didn't even flinch before answering, "You've been gone for weeks." Camille. The space was empty. Ryan needed somewhere to work. Family shares. Remember? I told her no. And Ryan laughed into his mic, telling his viewers his sister was being dramatic about his penthouse. He waved toward my couch, my kitchen, my skyline, every inch of what I paid for with overtime. Janet folded her arms and said, "Don't make this ugly. He's doing something good for himself." I walked past them to my bedroom, found my desk shoved into a corner to make room for his setup, and realized the one thing untouched: the drawer where I kept my encrypted drive. I didn't scream or argue. I took the drive, slid it into my bag, and smiled. Ryan kept filming as if I didn't exist, telling his chat, "Z. Real luxury. All mine." I dialed a number I knew by heart, the Austin Police non-emergency line, and said calmly, "This is Camille Rowan. I need an officer to confirm property rights at my residence." 10 minutes later, there was a firm knock on the door, and a voice said, "Austin Police Department." "Ma'am, we need to talk about who actually lives here." 8. As I opened the door, I noticed an envelope on the counter. Half hidden under Ryan's merch stickers, my name printed on a bank statement from an account I'd never opened. I slid it into my pocket without a word. The night was about to turn from noise to evidence. And that small detail was the note no one else saw coming. The next morning, Janet texted one line, "Family meeting at your place. No excuse." By noon, she walked in first with a binder like a realtor pitching a deal. Tom followed, hands in his pockets, wearing that calm he used to control the room. And Ryan came last. No camera, but still dressed for one. Janet spread printouts across my kitchen island. Her voice rehearsed as she said, "You're traveling so much for work. Camille, this condo just sits empty. There's a furnished place in Round Rock you could rent for a while. It's quieter, cheaper, and Ryan can keep using downtown for his content. It helps the family image." Tom nodded like it was common sense. "He's about to sign a big brand contract," he added. "If he looks stable, it helps everyone." I stared at them, measuring how easily they had rewritten ownership. "You're asking me to move out of my own home so your golden boy can look rich on the internet." Ryan rolled his eyes and said, "It's not that deep." "Camille, the condo was collecting dust. I turned it into value." I didn't answer, and he smirked. Chat loved it. Penthouse content's killing right now. I opened his latest video on my phone, the one where he gave a tour of my living room and called it his penthouse in downtown Austin. He never said my name once. But on the counter in the frame sat an envelope, my bank statement. When I zoomed in and showed them, my mom brushed it off. "Details. We're building something bigger here. You always said you wanted us to be okay." I laid down photos I'd taken that morning, scratches in the hardwood, coffee stains on the leather couch, marks where he'd ripped off wall panels to hang that neon logo. Then I pulled up an email from a bank I didn't use. "Welcome to your new business checking account. Camille Rowan." The account number wasn't mine. Ryan's face flickered for a second before he laughed. "It's just paperwork. I needed something verified for the platforms. You hardly live here." I didn't respond right away. I let the silence tighten until even Janet stopped pretending to be composed. You have 24 hours to get every piece of your gear out of my condo, I said evenly. No more filming here. No more using my name or this address. After that, we're done. Ryan's smirk dropped. He scoffed, shoved the papers aside, and stormed out while my parents trailed behind, muttering about how I was ruining everything. I didn't chase them. I just watched the door close and thought, this time, they won't reopen it on my terms. They'll need a key that no longer exists. That night, I met Monica at a coffee shop near the office. The kind of quiet place where bad news sounds softer. I opened my laptop and said, "You used to watch Ryan's channel, right? I need you to see something." We played his latest streams, one-by-one tours of the condo, late-night parties, and donation pop-ups that all listed my name in the transaction log. Monica frowned and leaned closer. "Kemi, these payments are tied to accounts using your full name. He didn't just borrow your place. He borrowed your identity." I scrolled through receipts, my stomach tightening with each one. "There's more," I said, pulling up an email from a bank I never used. "Welcome to your new business account. Camille Rowan." Monica tapped the screen. "He opened this under your legal name, probably using your address for verification. That's identity fraud." Her tone was calm but heavy. "You need to treat this like a crime, not a family argument." I sat back, hearing the words out loud for the first time. Fraud. Crime. My brother's version of success built on my name. We spent hours gathering proof. Every clip and timestamp cataloged like evidence. Ryan flashing my credit card on camera. Ryan signing delivery receipts addressed to me. Ryan bragging about owning his penthouse. Monica said quietly, "This isn't carelessness. It's calculated." I nodded, copying links into a spreadsheet, marking each one with the same label, unauthorized use. When I looked at the total, 2 fake accounts, multiple donation platforms, and at least $5,000 in transactions, it stopped feeling like betrayal and started feeling like a case. By the time the shop closed, the air outside smelled of rain and burnt coffee. I told Monica, "They think I'll cave again. They don't realize I'm documenting everything." She gave a small, tired smile, then start acting like it. "You're not fighting a family. You're protecting a record." I shut the laptop and felt something settle in me. A cold, clear understanding that I didn't need their permission anymore. The next time I faced them, I wouldn't bring tears, I'd bring evidence. David Ortiz's office was quiet. Glass walls looking over the city like they'd seen every mistake before. He watched the clips on my laptop without interrupting, rewinding when Ryan flashed my mail and pausing when my name appeared on the bank screen. When the last video ended, he leaned back and said, "This isn't a misunderstanding, Camille. It's unauthorized occupancy, identity misuse, and fraud." I met his eyes and said, "I don't want revenge. I just want my life back." Div. He picked up a pen and started writing. "We'll file a civil complaint for damages to the condo, misuse of your property, and false financial accounts. I'll also send a cease and desist to your brother and parents. No more use of your name, your address, or any footage of your home." I watched the ink move across the page. Clean and final. "What happens next?" I asked. "Next," he said, "we let the law talk for you." Ass. By the time I signed the forms, his assistant had already scanned the evidence. David typed quickly, each word precise. "The cease and desist will go out by email and certified mail within the hour. You'll have copies for your records." I nodded, keeping my voice steady. "They'll see my name in the sender line before dinner," he said, sliding the documents across. "And that's the first time it'll actually belong to you again. I signed and felt the weight of it settle, not fear. Just relief shaped like exhaustion. When I left, the city light had gone cold. I sat in my car outside his building, phone buzzing with notifications. Ryan was live again. The chat was spamming his screen with messages. Did you get sued? I opened the stream and watched his face freeze as an email alert popped up mid-broadcast. He laughed awkwardly, saying, "Guess even haters send fan mail." I knew exactly what he was reading, the subject line: legal notice of fraud and misrepresentation. For a moment, the camera caught something no edit could fix. The look of a man realizing the story had turned without his script. I closed the app, started the engine, and whispered, "The law just went live." 2 days later, I heard the knock I'd been expecting, a sharp, official rhythm that carried authority. When I opened the door, a sheriff's deputy stood there with a clipboard and asked, "Ms. Rowan?" I nodded, and he handed me the papers. "This is a temporary protective order issued by the court. Ryan Rowan is prohibited from entering or approaching this residence." My voice didn't shake when I said, "Understood." He nodded once and stayed there as the elevator dinged at the end of the hall. Janet's voice carried before I even saw her. "You can't be serious," she snapped, stepping out with Ryan right behind her. "You're treating him like a criminal." The deputy turned, professional but firm. "Mr. Rowan, you've been served. You're to maintain the distance specified in this order. Violation will result in arrest." Ryan's face drained of color, and he muttered, "This is insane." Janet glared at me. "You called the police. You got lawyers. And now this? You're destroying your own brother's future." I kept my tone even. "No. Mom, I'm protecting what's mine." End quote. Tom arrived a few steps later, hands raised like peace was still an option. "Maybe we can settle this as a family. No need for drama." I looked at him, then at Ryan. "You already filmed the drama. You turned my home into a backdrop for lies. And you kept going even after the police came. This isn't about family anymore. It's about boundaries." Ryan's voice cracked. "You cost me everything." I answered quietly. "You cost yourself the moment you used my name for profit." "I will." When they finally left, the hallway was silent again. I closed the door, feeling the lock click like punctuation at the end of a long sentence. For the first time in weeks, the air inside my condo felt still. Not empty, but reclaimed. I stood there with the order in my hand and thought, this wasn't war. It was peace enforced by law. The mediation was held in a downtown conference room. Neutral carpet and fluorescent calm, pretending this was a simple dispute. Ryan sat across from me with a lawyer who looked freshly hired. Janet and Tom behind him like witnesses to their own denial. The mediator began. "We're here to find a resolution between Ms. Rowan and Mr. Rowan regarding property use and financial damages." David spoke first, his voice measured. "My client owns the condo outright. She never granted permission for it to be used as a studio or for financial purposes under her name." 80. He slid a folder forward. "We're seeking reimbursement for condo damages totaling $8,700. HOA fines of $2,500. And legal fees. Additionally, Mr. Rowan must remove all media portraying the property as his and cooperate in correcting false accounts." Ryan leaned back, scoffing. "You're making this sound criminal." It was content, not a haste. The mediator nodded toward me. "Ms. Rowan, how has this affected you?" I met Ryan's eyes and said, "I'm the one paying fines for his noise, cleaning his mess, and explaining to my employer why my home is trending online as someone else's. My name is attached to accounts I never opened. My peace of mind was traded for views. Haven't or want to. Ryan's lawyer tried to interrupt. My client believed the property was a shared family investment. David stayed calm. There's no document supporting that. There's, however, plenty of footage where he calls it his and uses my client's legal identity. Ryan muttered. You're all acting like I committed fraud. David didn't blink. Because you did. The mediator interjected gently. Let's stay constructive, I said. Constructive was an option before my bank called about an account I didn't open. Janet whispered sharply. You're ruining him? Camille. I turned to her. I'm holding him accountable. There's a difference. 2. The mediator asked if we could reach a settlement. David outlined the terms again, payment plan. Removal of all false content. Signed admission of misuse. Ryan shook his head. I don't have that kind of money, David replied evenly. You had enough to stage a lifestyle. Now you'll fund the truth. Ryan's phone buzzed on the table, and his face went pale. He whispered something to his lawyer, who requested a break. When they returned, the lawyer cleared his throat. One of Mr. Fand. Rowan's sponsors has terminated their contract, citing misrepresentation. I didn't react. David simply said, Then we all understand the cost of pretending. ADO. The mediator looked at each of us and summarized. Mr. Rowan will comply with restitution and cease all use of Ms. Rowan's identity. This agreement will be submitted to the court for record. I signed first. Ryan hesitated, eyes flickering with something between anger and defeat. You'll never forgive me, he said quietly. I replied, This was never about forgiveness. It was about proof. He signed, and the mediator nodded, bringing the session to a close. As I gathered my documents, I felt the strange calm that comes when justice doesn't roar but finally whispers back in your language. Ryan's probation was set for 2 years, and he was ordered to pay restitution in monthly installments. When the judge asked if he understood, he said yes without looking up. Afterward, Janet whispered, He'll never recover from this. I replied, He's not being destroyed. He's being required to repair what he broke. Tom said quietly, We might have to sell the house to help him. I looked at both of them and said, Then you'll finally understand the cost of pretending everything was free. Dino. Weeks later, Ryan handed me his first check in David's office. His voice flat. Don't spend it all in one place, he muttered. I didn't answer. Just passed it to David and signed the receipt. The probation officer confirmed. You've complied for this month, Mr. Rowan. Ryan nodded, eyes hollow. Outside. The world had already moved on. His sponsors were gone. His followers had vanished. And his name was tied to court records instead of trending tags. I stood by the window as he left, his reflection shrinking against the glass. For the first time in years, I didn't feel angry. The noise had stopped. The stage lights had gone dark. And all that remained was accountability quiet, steady, and mine. I stood on my balcony as the city lights blinked back at me. The air finally quiet. Janet had stopped calling. Ryan had gone silent. And Tom's last message just said, Take care of yourself. I whispered. I already am. The condo was mine again, paint redone. Floors repaired. Locks changed. What used to feel like an apology now felt like ownership. Boundaries weren't cruelty. They were recovery in motion. I learned that love without respect is only control wearing better clothes. As I closed the sliding door, I thought, peace isn't what you win, it's what you finally stop giving away. Thank you for staying until the end of my story. If you've ever had to stand your ground against people who called it disloyalty, remember boundaries protect what love should never take. Your peace is yours to keep. Subscribe for more stories of strength, truth, and the quiet kind of justice.